The big question here is, should you quit your job? Now, a lot of us feel like we shouldn't be working under somebody else. Like we're entitled to work on our own desires and passions throughout life. So if you've ever felt that you wanted to storm out of your job, not show up at all, or just have this burning desire that you should be working on something else, more entitled to your own self as opposed to someone else's items or work, this video might be for you. Stick around. All right, so the big question here is, should you quit your job? Now, that's a very enticing sentence, quitting your job. If you've ever quit a job before, you might know it's one of the most liberating feelings you could ever feel. You feel so free, you feel like all the work you've put in, you finally get some time to yourself and you get to work on your own things. A lot of the times we don't really have a backup plan, we just know that we enjoy the freedom heavily. We feel like a kid again, we don't really have to do anything. We have responsibilities. A lot of the times, if we've been working before and we're quitting, we might have a little bit of savings to add as a little cushion. So before times even get stressful for, of course, the lack of income because you just quit your job, you get this feeling of this is what it should be like. You get to work on your own things, focus on what you want to focus on. And even if you're not necessarily accumulating income, you still feel very liberated. So this is the feeling a lot of us want to chase, the feeling that we had before we started working, the feeling that we had in between switching jobs, where even if you quit a job and had a few months off before starting your next job, you know that those are really good refresher time. Now, the conflict comes when, of course, we don't have a source of income. So you can't pay your bills, you can't buy things that you want to buy, but you still have the freedom. So it almost becomes an ultimatum. Do you want the freedom or do you want the money? When it necessarily doesn't have to be that way. Now, the reason I'm bringing up the question, should you quit your job, is because I know a lot of us feel this. I feel this. So I think the real question is, what's the underlying root cause of wanting to quit your job? Instead of actually quitting your job, that might not be the best decision because you sacrifice a big income, flow of income. But it might be just a feeling that's telling you something else. You're just searching for that freedom. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to cut all communication with income. For example, overworking may have you feeling like you're not working on enough things at yourself, that you're not living up to your true potential. If you're like playing instruments or going to the park whenever you want, driving around wherever you want, not necessarily things that cost money, but things that just you enjoy. Now, of course, those hobbies can cost money as well, but just to give an example of things that don't really need money to operate, they just bring you happiness. You can do things like sports, and a lot of times we feel like we just miss the freedom to do what we want. So if it's the freedom that you want, it's not necessarily that you want to quit your job, it's just that you're maybe missing something in the present right now. So when many days stack upon each other where you're maybe working overtime or you're just not working on your own schedule, it might make you feel like you're living someone else's life, not yours. But then we have to ask ourselves, if we're going to be cutting a huge flow of income, are we really doing everything that we can be doing? Are we working on our own hobbies on the side? Are we trying to allocate time? Are we making ourselves feel good? Are we taking care of ourselves? Are we eating right? Are we drinking plenty of water? Are we getting plenty of sun? All the fundamentals. Because if you're not taking care of the fundamentals, it might seem like there's a huge imbalance in everything else. Physically, if you're not taking care of yourself, your diet, it might just make you feel very cloudy and you'll be able to kind of relate that feeling to everything else. So you might be doing something that's also hurting yourself before you can even get to any of your hobbies or anything like that. Now, the reason I bring this up is because I do believe that there can be a balance. Not in all cases it's going to be situational, but I think the one thing we should do is see if there's anything we can do before having to make that huge decision, an ultimatum of quitting your job. Because of course a lot of us want that, but I think there's a possibility to still get that same freedom while also working and building an income, and potentially making your own income on the side without your current job. Now, ways to do this are having a better morning routine, waking up early. So first, let me start by saying that if you have a leaking pool, there's no point of putting more water in it, trying to refill it, because there's a leak. Or if you have budgeting issues, a lot of the times making more money won't really solve any financial problems or saving problems, because there's already a source of money leaking. So if I'm buying everything in sight, if I get more money, I'm not going to save more money, I'm just going to buy more things that are in sight. So what I'm saying is you need to get the fundamentals down before adding on more value to try to reach that goal. So ways we can do this in our lives are, of course, waking up earlier, starting the day early. There's less distractions. The first thing on your mind, you go and tackle it, you get it done. There's less resistance in there because you just woke up. You feel like you have the day ahead of you, and you feel like you're on track and you're on time, maybe even ahead of other people. Maybe other people aren't even awake yet if you're getting up early enough. So if there's any kind of workouts or anything you want to do to make yourself feel good, you could do that before you do anything else. So a lot of people say you shouldn't compare yourself against others. Okay, that's fair. But you could compare yourself against how you used to wake up. So if you used to wake up at 9 and now you're waking up at 7, you have extra 2 hours. You can still compare yourself about how you were doing before. So this opens up 2 free hours to do whatever you want. Now 2 hours won't make the difference, but it's a good start. Another thing you can do is kind of check up on where you might be wasting the most time. If you're wasting a lot of time on social media or on your phone, or if you're kind of not fighting resistance in terms of you're gonna work on something and it's your only free time through the day because you have to work later, and you're not using that time wisely. Instead of sticking on your diet, you feel like ice cream or chips are the best answer and they're gonna give you that instant gratification, so you run to those instead of staying on track. Now, it's very enticing to think about, and in the current moment, it makes you feel a little bit better and it gives you that dopamine. But long term, it's going to stray you away from the goal, and at the end of the day, that's what it is that you're trying to get to, is the goal. So having things listed or knowing what you want is a big help. It keeps you on track, and we've always had something to keep us on track before. While we were in school, people tell us what to do, and we have something to go chase. Once we become adults, it doesn't necessarily stay that way. You kind of go and do whatever you want, which can be very scary, because it's a road you have to choose and you have to make your own decisions. And of course, like, it's adult, and it's what comes with being an adult. But at the same time, if you don't take time to really understand how you're gonna navigate through all this, then you might waste a lot more time than you could have if you would have sat down and observed how you're going to approach it. So, kind of getting back to the topic at hand of should you quit your job, I think it's a very extreme sentence, but I think it has a big value in that it brings up the idea that potentially there's something underlying that you could be doing better. Job just sounds very drastic. And what it could actually be telling you is something much smaller, but something that you don't have on track. Like, you should be putting more time towards your goals. Because if you were to quit your job, would you really be putting more time to your goals anyway if you don't understand that? What would you really be doing? Do you have a plan set out if you're not already executing properly while at your job as well? So that's why it's important to get things right before you try to take a case that even once you get everything in order, then quitting the job might be the answer. But in that case, you would look at what kind of income whatever you're doing on the side is bringing in, or how happy it's making you, and is it sustainable. But the first answer isn't always quitting your job necessarily. It could just be raising something, or your brain telling you something that is very important to you and something that you value. So you shouldn't ignore it. If you're feeling things like that, it's kind of just telling you that, hey, maybe you could get better at certain other things that your brain has been caring about subconsciously. I hope I explained that well, just because I know it's a very relatable topic. I think if you've ever quit your job before, sometimes it might seem like that's the answer again. If you're switching jobs, anything like that, you might feel like, well, the last job wasn't the answer, maybe this one will be. And you almost might seem lost sometimes, because the next one, who knows if that one will be the answer too. So a lot of the times it's not the jobs, it's what you can fix within yourself, or potentially it could be the jobs. But it's always important to get the fundamentals down and really think about what those questions that are coming up in your head, or those very emotional feelings, might really be telling you. Because of course, if we all quit our jobs, it'd be a bit of a trap, and we wouldn't be able to pay any bills. But it doesn't mean that those feelings and emotions are invalid. It could just be telling you, hey, I used to really read a lot of books, or I used to work out really often, and I feel like now I can't do it. And a lot of times we might blame the job, we might blame that we're spending our time with more family, more friends, but it's really not their fault. It's just that we can allocate more time to do those things as well. And of course, life does change, so your schedule might change, but it doesn't mean you can't still do those things. It might not be exactly the way you did before, but they're still 100% possible. And if you schedule things right and overcome that initial resistance of resentment, then you'll get right back on track, no problem. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Just a cool topic. I don't know, I was working on a few things and also having to put my attention towards work and also my own hobbies. So it kind of brought up this question, and of course I knew I didn't want to actually quit my job. I actually really like my job, and it has its moments where it's incredible and it has its moments where it's a little bit more stressful, but that's a part of it. But it did raise this question, and the question kind of led me to, okay, well, what was I really feeling? And it kind of told me that I wasn't spending as much time on my own hobbies as I used to, and that I could do better with that. And I spent a little bit of time over the past days, and I saw a lot of improvement. So just that alone was very interesting, because it showed me that, hey, maybe this is what my brain was telling me all along, is that as long as it has this, it'll feel more balanced, something that I was used to, something that I really enjoy. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I think it was a really interesting topic. So if any of you guys have any experiences or anything you want to add on to the topic, definitely leave it down below. I think it's something that we all deal with or struggle with or are looking to understand. So if you guys have some information, drop it down below.